do like the whole presentation. I mean, I know you want the really long, kind of drawn out, like long version where I tell you how it's made and like everything about it. But I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do the demo. I'm just going to show you the stuff and get to it. But the one thing I'll tell you about, if it's cool, is just this whole school thing that I was telling you about on the phone. And then so I'm asking for permission for that, which you will always be granted. It's great. So yeah, so everybody who does this job, like I've done this, Mrs. Jones, this would be my 4th year now that I've sold Cutco. And when I started, I don't know how I got there. I'm selling knives. I don't know what the heck how did I get here? But it ended up being something that I was good at. And I ended up selling $30,000. I was 3rd ranked up in Pennsylvania, but nationally the top 50 got scholarships. I was 57. It was a heartbreaker. And for the top 50 students in the country to get scholarships, and it's always been that way since it was really 25, 50, 25, when I started, it's been that way, but it's basically 50 a semester. During the summer, there's almost 100,000 kids selling Cutco, and there's 50 scholarships, so it's just really, really competitive. And so it ended up being something I was good at, and I ended up selling $30,000, and I really liked it, and I knew I wanted to come back the next summer, but I just didn't know if I was going to be able to do enough demos to go after a scholarship. I thought I'd seen all of my mom's friends, all of my dad's friends, any mom who's ever on a lacrosse team with me in my life, and I just didn't think I'd be able to keep doing enough demos to go after a scholarship. But what I found is that, I had to make a quick decision because I wanted to do Cutco for my 2nd summer after college, but I had to make my decision because I actually did put myself through school. And I had student loans for tuition, and my mom always paid for my apartment. But I covered always my expenses, and I had to go back to school with $5 grand, because I was going to cover my expenses for a semester. And I'd always done construction and landscaping and jobs kind of like that, growing up, and I knew I could go back and do that again and just bust it all summer and make $5 grand. I wanted to sell Cutco where I could make a lot more, but I could also make zero, and that just wasn't an option for me. I paid my expenses at school, so that just couldn't happen. So I had to decide, because I only had a few leads left from the 1st summer, and I had to decide real quick if I was going to be able to keep doing it. So I just focused and got much better at leads, and now I have had plenty of people to see. And once I got my head around the fact that I'd be able to keep doing enough demos, my 2nd summer I ended up selling $50,000, and this time I finished 21st overall in the country. And I did get the scholarship, and instead of making $5 grand that summer, I made $25 grand. I was ultimately able to put 15 of it directly to school. So for me, this is not the Girl Scout cookies, which it was when I started, but for me it's turned out to be this just totally legit vehicle that I've been able to use to pay for not every dollar, but most of my education since my sophomore year at the University of Delaware. I've paid for just by selling Cutco. And then I think I mentioned on the phone, I graduated last year at Delaware, and I'm going to grad school sometime in the near future, but my whole kind of life plan, I'm a finance accounting double major, and my whole life plan was I'm gonna work on Wall Street, get a company to pay for grad school, get my master's, and that would be my life. And when I graduated, I interviewed, and I got the jobs I was looking for, mostly in private equity, but it was going to be 5 years before I got to go back to grad school, and I was going to have to pay for it. So I just looked at it I'm 23, I'm going to work for 5 more years to save up enough money to go back to school for 2 more years, to start my life over again at 0, or probably in debt when I'm 30, and it was not how I had envisioned my life unfolding. So I just said, I've only ever done Cutco for 3 months at a time. I know how to fund it this way. I might as well just do this for a year and not have to hope that somebody else pays for it. And it ended up being the best decision that I've ever made in my life right after I graduated in 2012. The all-time record at that time ever by a college student was around $200,000, and by professional at the time was about $369,000. And that year I ended up selling $392,000. And it was awesome. It was right after I graduated. Boom, hit him with a degree. It was right after I graduated. And when I did graduate, I had $63,000 of student loans. And today I have 0, and I can pay in full for my first year of grad school tomorrow. And it's all because of this Cutco kind of opportunity. And then, we just got back from Connecticut. I got to really recognize my mom on stage for all this. And, she's a caterer, so she gets more free Cutco than she could possibly ever use. And guys, if you don't have a picture of you with your mom or your family in your blue book, you're leaving so much CPO on the table. I was actually a customer who told me that I should start to do this. And it just really engages people on an emotional level. It's one thing, I sell through my mom, all day. Everything I do is about, selling through my mom. But it's one thing to tell them about your mom. It's another thing to show you and her in a picture together and, make sure that they at least take a quick glance down at the page and see her. But I just got back from Connecticut with my mom. I got to be recognized on stage for all this, and it's been really awesome. And We don't have to do it for time reasons, Mrs. Jones, but like you would crack up because you probably know so many of my sponsors, because like, and so many of my customers, because like most of the demos I do are within 5 square miles of here. So, and then some people love this part, some people are kind of not into it, and I'll skip ahead. But some people would rather be like, oh my God, you saw Kathy Gladnick, like you saw Ann Hamilton, like oh my God, you are good. Like Emily bought, like oh my, like you know the Pedowitzes, like you know the Jeanette, like and people, it's just pure social proof. And they're seeing names of people who are some big timers they know, and if they bought it, that certainly dismisses any quality objections I'm ever going to face in the entire presentation. But go through a customer. Sometimes people, will spend a lot of time here and people can't believe it, and sometimes it's literally like 10 seconds. But yeah, so as far as Cutco goes, obviously we're talking about knives. But I'm not sure if you're familiar with waterless cookware at all, as I try and balance this in a way that people can see it, but it's not going to work. But I'm not sure if you're familiar with waterless cookware at all. And then they're not. Yeah, Mr. Jones, do you do like broccoli or stuff like that often every now and then? And they'll always say yes. And I should probably make mention, when I walk into a demo, I have like an ultimate in my left like chest and elbow, but my hand is holding the handle of a saucepan. And then I have a little bag with order forms and stuff, and a couple pieces like over my right shoulder, right hand open for the shake. But like when I set it up, it's an ultimate next to just one saucepan. You just need one saucepan at your demos. Next to one saucepan, next to a flatware spread, next to a table knife, next to a steak knife, next to a hunting knife. And that's like what I put, that's like what they are just looking at the presentation. So I'm showing them the cookware because it's just sitting out in front of them, but I'm not sure if you're familiar with waterless cookware, but do you broccoli, stuff like that every now and then? Yeah, so follow me on this. When you go to pour out that water at the end, how it's that like green, murky, kind of cloudy water? And they'll always say yes. Yeah, that's just because you poured out half of the nutrients that was in that broccoli in the first place. Cool thing about waterless is if you're doing broccoli, you would just rinse it off in the sink. You put it in here with no water, or my mom does just like a tiny splash of water, and what happens is a vapor seal forms around the top, so it locks in all that moisture. So instead of cooking in a pool of water, food just cooks in its own condensation. So it retains all the nutrients, it's visibly brighter, but the main benefit of waterless cookware is you only cook on low, and it actually cuts cooking time in half. And this is the only technical part of the presentation, Mrs. Jones. It's because we use an aluminum core, which is really expensive, but it's an awesome conductor of temperature. So like if you held, are you familiar with like All-Clad by any chance, Mrs. Jones? Yep. Okay, cool. All-Clad makes phenomenal quality cookware. My mom used them in catering for like a really long time. If you held a lighter on the bottom of All-Clad or any other professional quality piece of cookware for 5 seconds and then put your finger on that spot where the flame was, like you'd be burnt. If you held a lighter on the bottom of waterless cookware for 30 seconds and you put your finger on the spot where the flame was, it would be very warm, but you would not be burnt. And it's because we use an aluminum core, it gets just as hot right here as it does right here, as it does right here. The heat's absorbed by the entire pot, not just the bottom. It cooks from the top down, sides in, and bottom up. Basically, you just only cook on low. It cuts cooking time in half. You don't have to heat up the whole kitchen for just something small. And you can use it the exact same way you've always used regular cookware, but it just gets very hot at only a low heat. But it's knives, it's cookware, it's flatware, and again, so like our flatware is 1810 stainless steel. You definitely don't need 1810 stainless. All flatware is either 1810, 18.8, or 18.6. No idea what that means, but I know 1810 is definitely the best. You don't need it, but it's nice just because it stays shiny, it's really scratch resistant. In stores, it's it's usually around $200 per place setting, and from Cutco, essentially we do a deal when you're in service for 12 now. It used to be $139 when it first came out, and now service for 12 is a little bit less than $100 per setting. I think it's one of the best deals we do on anything, and some of the stuff I sell the most of, because most people I see already have a set of the knives, which is a soft sell, and obviously you're going to be buying the knives. But yeah, and what's also really nice about our flatware is it's really light. It's not like big bulky flatware, it's really sleek. Like if you pick that up, you're like, oh, it is light, I like that. Whereas if you don't mention that it's light, you're going to pick it up and be like, oh, I don't like it because it's light. So control that context and say, hey, what's nice about it is that it's light. Like feel that, check that out. And you're like, oh my God, it is light. I totally love that it's light. So control the context, because like if you're not telling them it's light, there's going to be a lot of people reacting to it like, this is a little bit light. I kind of like more, like weight to my flatware. So like, what I do is I just address that before it comes up and I try and turn that into a good thing. But it's knives, it's cookware, it's flatware, and that's a bunch of kind of peripheral kitchen gadgets like ice cream scoops and stuff like that. But the way Mr. Jones that most people go get their kitchen stuff is they go to Williams-Sonoma and they get an expensive set of whatever it is that they're going to get. If you walked into Williams-Sonoma and said, most people don't like research steel, Mr. Jones, like before they buy knives. If you walked into Williams-Sonoma and said, I need to get the best knives, they would say get Shun, Woodstock, or Henkel's. Does that stuff some of that stuff kind of ring about? Yeah, okay, cool. Basic set of Shun costs $4,000, final on sale for $3,000. It's expensive as hell, and it is totally, totally worth it. Like, Shun makes awesome knives. Like, if I was a homeowner, and I had, and I ate food, and I didn't have Cutco, I would have Shun. A basic set of Wusthof or of Henkel's is like $3,000, final on sale for $2,000. Again, not cheap, totally, totally worth it. They make fantastic knives. Cookware is not cheap at all, Mrs. Jones. When I printed this out a year ago for a full set of All-Clad off Williams Sonoma, it was $5,400, and it was on sale at the time for $39.99. The difference between this stuff and Cutco is more expensive to make. In terms of sheer quality, Cutco is the best stuff there is. The difference is when you get a set of, we'll say, Wusthof, that goes from manufacturing in Germany to distribution to shipping to receiving in the US to distribution to warehousing to wholesaling to warehousing to retailing to your kitchen. And what do you think Williams Sonoma did with it at the retailing stage when they got it? And they will always say, mark it up. You say, yeah, they mark it up. And one of my good buddies who sells in Connecticut recently sold to like an executive at Williams Sonoma who told him that the average markup, like on their top shelf products, was 300%. It's not like 25%, it's like 300%. So a lot of times when we see like $3,000 for a set of Wusthof, what we perceive just must be the ornate craftsmanship and fine quality of that set of knives. Like, there's definitely some of that in there, but it's predominantly the markup of wholesalers and of retailers. Whereas with Cutco, it's expensive as hell at point A, but it goes from manufacturing in New York to your kitchen. So it's all factory direct with the pricing, which doesn't make it cheap, but it does make it not outrageously expensive. So it's pretty cool also that it is made in America, in an American factory, by American workers, because not much else nowadays is. And I think it's just pretty cool that it's totally American made and, and American the whole way. But yeah, and again, Ms. Jones, it's funny though, my number one goal here today is, I'm just about to show you the different sets. My number one goal here today, has nothing to do with, selling you $1 million of Cutco. My goal is that you like me, you have fun with the next 10 minutes, so at the end of the presentation, you feel comfortable recommending me to a few of your friends. Like the way that Cindy recommended me to you. And Cindy, Mrs. Hawkins was she was great, and she bought a bunch of Cutco, but she introduced me to 20 of her friends. And I think they were mostly do you guys know each other through Episcopal? Okay, cool. So they're mostly Episcopal lower school moms who I didn't know. And she gave me, out of 20 referrals, I'll end up sitting down with 12 or 13 of those people. And I'll probably sell $12,000 or $13,000 on those appointments, but those 12 or 13 people are going to introduce me to the next 120 to 130 people who I end up getting to sit down with. So Cindy might have created my entire summer before it even started. So my goal is that you like me and you have fun with the presentation so you feel comfortable at the end recommending me to a few of your friends. And if you're at the end of this presentation, if you're most people, if at the end of this presentation, if Cutco were free, you would want everything that Cutco makes. But just know that if you see some stuff that you like whether you think about getting it today or a year from now, or talking to your husband about it, or whatever it is, because of this RDC push thing that I forgot to promote, which I would have normally had a demo in the beginning, I swear to God, you're going to get the best deal that you can get on Cutco. But yeah, definitely let me know if there's something you like. But yeah, I guess just tell me, how does this tool feel in your hands? And then they'll say, oh, it feels great. Sometimes people say it's light, sometimes people feel it's good. Yeah, that's what we call our hand perfect handle. It was actually designed by this doctor who was created for people with arthritis, and then they just found out that the desire to have a knife that fits well in your hand is not solely necessitated by the having of arthritis. And then they just started making it for everybody. But if you can tell me what this handle is made out of, then that is actually your knife for free. Unlimited guesses. And then we'll put another one out of the block and be, hey, it's in the same stuff, by the way, it's in the white, it's in the black. And then they'll, do some guesses, and it's fun for them. They do get engaged at that point in the demo. Then after they guess themselves out, you just say it's actually the coolest stuff in the world. It's this stuff called thermoresin. I know that was obviously your next guess. I do also accept resin as the correct answer. But it's the same stuff that's in bowling balls and pool balls and professional football helmets and stuff like that. So I always say, when was the last time you saw a pool ball on a table break? It doesn't happen. It's indestructible. Whereas most upper end knife manufacturers use plastic for their handles, and plastic's all right, but it does get nicked up and scratched, and it's porous. So when you put them in the dishwasher, they get kind of gross. Thermoresin is totally non-porous, which just makes it 100% sanitary. It's just the most sanitary thing you could possibly use to make a knife handle out of. And hey, people love Sean and love Wusthof and love Henkel's because they use amazing steel. They use 420A steel. It's super hard steel. It's really, really expensive. Cutco uses 440A US made steel. It's the strongest steel that exists in the universe in a tool. Fun part. We're gonna do a little cutting test for me. Real quick. I'm gonna have you guys get for me a few things. Your absolute best, absolute favorite chef knife. Like if you have like a big straight edge knife for dicing. And then like a serrated, like if you have like a bread knife or something that's serrated, and then like whatever you'd use at the table for like fillet or like for like a steak knife for like at the table. And then they'll get that, and then I'll yell, like I always try and minimize it, so I'm only asking for 2 things. I'm like, oh, and a steak knife, and I'm like, oh, and also grab a penny, and then oh, grab a cutting board, because like when I was in my fast food, I lost my cutting board, and I didn't replace it, so I just said, yeah, use theirs. Grab those things, great. So, like, long story short, like, people love a serrated edge because it's better for cutting. Like, you're gonna cut through quicker with a serrated edge. But the reason why most people don't use their bread knife on like a roast is because it rips and tears your food. You know, you don't want to serve people food that's cut, you know, a roast that's cut with a bread knife. That's where you use a straight edge to get that clean cut. The problem with straight edges is like they're good for dicing vegetables, but they're just not good for carving. So I'm gonna have you try first up. I'm gonna have you use your straight edge, the chef knife. I'm gonna have you take full strokes on this rope. We use rope just by the way because it doesn't dull out your knives and it shows the quality of the cut. I'm gonna take full strokes, just press down hard and see how that works out for you. And then they go, and it takes a while, and then when they're halfway through, I always say, you know, you don't have to go through all the way, but you see how it is like a totally clean cut? Okay, cool. Now we're gonna go with the serrated edge and see how that works. You start to cut with the serrated edge. You know, at the end, usually it starts to shred a little bit at the rope. Awesome, more effective. You can see how you just don't want to serve people food that looks like that. Now I'm gonna have you try, and I always pretend like I'm mentally debating what I'm gonna have them try, even though I know for damn sure it's gonna be the Hardy Slicer. You know, do you do like pork loin or chicken every now and then? And like, I don't think ever someone said no, but if they said no, I'd be like, oh, okay. Like, you do like a pineapple, you know, I would just like keep switching to something they use for it. Okay, cool. I'm gonna have you try, no matter what you tell me right now, I'm gonna have you try the Hardy Slicer. So this has more weight in it than anything else that Cutco makes. This would be for like the toughest stuff. This would be like butternut squash, cantaloupe, pineapple, or really just anything you do on a grill. Like if you're sectioning a pork loin, or if you're even doing like a cooked like chicken or roast, like it's just really good big utility knife. I'm gonna have to give that a try and see how that works out for you. Sweet, now that's pretty cool, right? Now look at the cut that it makes. And just be like, oh, wow, that's a pretty clean cut. And yeah, it is a pretty clean cut. Now, by all logical accounts, Mrs. Jones, this is a serrated edge knife, right? And it's like, yeah. Like, it is actually completely different, and this is the reason why everybody gets Cutco. A serrated edge is a saw. The points do all of the cutting, and you go from point to point to point to point, from cut to cut to cut to cut, and that's why it like rips and tears your food. What's going on with our edge is it's actually 3 straight edges in between each 2 points that do all of the cutting. So what that means is that the points on these edges do none of the cutting at all. All the points do is when you get down to the cutting board, the plate, or the bone, like whatever causes a knife to dull, it's only these points that can absorb that impact. So the edges in between the points that are doing all of the cutting can only come in contact with the food they're supposed to touch in the first place. So they stay sharp for a ridiculously long time. Basically, you have the effectiveness of a serrated edge, the clean cut of a straight edge, and you can use them on meat. So like most of the differences with Cutco is just about like the quality of the ingredient, but the edge is completely unique to Cutco. But yeah, if there's one thing you want to hear in this entire presentation that you're paying attention to, say this was a $5,000 set of knives, pointing to the ultimate, what type of guarantee would you expect that to come with? And then usually they say lifetime, or they like dabble, and then you just get them to say lifetime. Lifetime, right, do you know anything that has a lifetime guarantee? And then they'll kind of start to try and guess, and you say, like, you kind of come on, you're like, yeah, there's a couple things, like, I've heard Craftsman Tools, I've heard Montclair, like, ski equipment, somebody told me my LL Bean bag has a guarantee for a lifetime, like, there's a few things, like, not much, but there's a few things. As far as kitchen stuff, it's not usually nothing. I always say, Ms. Jones, have you ever seen the waterproof iPhone that is made by Apple? And they're like, I feel like I'm getting tricked right now. And I'm like, yeah, it would be nice if that existed. You are totally getting tricked right now. There is the only one thing that is not covered in full on Apple Care, and it's for a very specific reason. It is water damage. It's like, I don't know, I don't know the facts, but I gotta believe it's like one of the main reasons why somebody goes and gets a new iPhone. Like, I know my mom in the last few years twice has broken her phone in water. I did last year, as I've been preaching about the waterproof iPhone, Mrs. Jones, for years now. And last year, finally, I went into water with my iPhone. Totally came full circle for me. But the coolest thing, Apple isn't going to guarantee something that you use every day for a lifetime. You know, they know they're going to sell you a lot more iPhones during your lifetime. You know, like the best customer of a set of Woodstock is usually someone who's just buying the same set that they had bought like 10 years ago or something. The coolest thing about Cutco is, but if there's one thing you want to hear from me, is that every single thing Cutco makes is guaranteed forever. It's by far the best part about Cutco. It's just a one and done kind of a deal. The whole presentation, Mrs. Jones, in 10 seconds, is the average person replaces their set of knives 4 times in their life, cookware 3 times, flatware twice, and you pretty much buy stupid kitchen gadgets every single month. I just tell people, Mrs. Jones, like, just be done getting kitchen stuff over and over and over again. Like, you're gonna spend the money anyway to not have as high quality stuff as Cutco. But it really is just all the way people view expenses. Because Mrs. Jones, like, usually the way people view the expense of Cutco in my presentation is, how much money do I need to spend to get this damn set of knives? Whereas, like, the polar opposite would be cable, you know, because it's outrageous. The only way that anybody looks at cable is how much do I spend per month on cable. You know, if we said super conservatively $100 a month, if you watch TV for 20 years, $1,200 a year is $25,000. Now, nobody watches, you know, ESPN and says, this is a $25,000 expense, but absolutely it is. You know, and if Comcast called tomorrow and said, you could have cable for life for like 15 grand, do you want to buy it? Like, obviously everybody would be like, no, I would never spend $15,000 on cable, because nobody views the expense that way. You know, and realistically, most people watch TV for 40 or 50 years and spend way more than $100 a month on cable, but it's viewed as $100. So like the whole thing you're doing when you're getting Cutco, like it's gonna sting you when you get it, because it's not cheap. But you're just done with the kitchen forever. You know, like some people get Cutco just because it's the best stuff. You know, but most people get Cutco because if anything, you know, chips, breaks, scratches, melts, or is broken in any way, even if it's totally your fault, it's going to be replaced for free. It's just a one and done kind of a deal, and it's going to sting. You know, it's going to sting you when you get it, but you're just done with the kitchen forever. So now that you've seen the product and heard the guarantee, I'm just going to show you some of the different, you know, sets, and we'll go from there. It'll be like, cool. And hey, Ms. Jones, by the way, and she's in exactly the right mindset to be looking at a set of knives now. Like, my whole presentation is geared towards, like, why should I spend, like, a lot of money on a knife set? Like, I'm just trying to answer that the whole time. Like, I could care less about a wooden handle. I'm just answering why are you trying to ball out on a knife set right now? It's pretty much like what my whole demo is geared towards. But Ms. Jones, like, hey, you can do anything you want. You know, you can do anything you want a la carte. You guys probably don't say that. You can do anything you want a la carte. You can do anything you want in the set. You can do anything you want in an upgrade. So that means, like, I'll just show you kind of like Cindy's set, but like I'll be the first to tell you, Mrs. Jones, like if it's a budget thing, like probably don't get a set. Like probably just like fine getting like pieces. If it's not a budget thing, you should probably get a set. You know, they're discounted by, you know, around 20%, sometimes more. So like a knife that's like $99, like, or $100, like in a regular set, like the exact, well, just individually, a knife that's like $99, $100, and the exact same knife in a set is like $78 or $79 for the exact same knife, and it adds up. So just keep an open mind. I'll show you Cindy's set, and I'll show you Margie's set. Just do whatever you want to do. Does that sound good? Sweet. So basically we make 3 sets. First one's our complete set, the Beast. This would be a set dive right here. It's our best set. It's the only one that has service for 12 with our table knives. It's just the best set of Cutco knives. The set that I probably sell the most of would be like our medium set. If I do like 10 demos, I'll probably sell, you know, 4 or 5 of these. This is Cindy's set and Margie's set, by the way. And then we have like our basic set, which is like our standard starter set. It's probably the set, like one of the sets that like Cutco has sold the most of. But it's an awesome set as well, and that's like our standard starter set. But I'll show you like some of the stuff in Cindy's and then just like tell you the differences. But okay, cool. And hey, also, like, so these are prepackaged practical sets. So like, obviously, I'm not going to walk you through like every single knife here one at a time and tell you like everything about our bread knife for 20 minutes. It's just really good at cutting bread. But I'm just going to show you like some of the like main differences and the margins and some of the stuff we use the most. But okay, cool. So first up, again, I always start with the Hardy Slicer, Mrs. Jones, that we did the rope with. Again, it's just for like the toughest stuff, just like the big utility knife. Like if you're cutting something big, when in doubt, Hardy Slicer is definitely a good way to go. But definitely like squash, cantaloupe, and like, you know, stuff you grill. Cindy's favorite tool in her set, Petite Santoku. What's awesome about the Petite Santoku, Mrs. Jones, as I pull a chef knife out of my block, any set of knives is going to come with a chef knife, like Cutco or not, like for dicing. I think just like a lot of people don't like to always reach for like the biggest knife in the set though for everything. So what's really cool about the Petite Santoku is you can do like the same stuff that you would do with a big chef knife, but you'll just be like way more apt to reach for it because it's just like, it has the same handle as like our smaller knives. And again, obviously there's definitely a time and a place for a chef knife, but I think a lot of people just love the Petite Santoku because it's just something based on size. I think that a lot of people use a lot more. Last tool in the set, everyone looks at this, they're like, what the heck is that? Cheese knife, when you kind of do a cheese block, it gets stuck halfway through every time. This just has these holes to prevent sticking, so I always cut through all the way. Third hole is a bottle opener. It's definitely your total hors d'oeuvres knife. Definitely my college roommate's most frequented piece of Cutco right here. But like it's sweet for cheese. But like if you do like a 10-year super hard aged Gouda, like it's great. Or like brie, but it's also the best knife Cutco makes for even just a tomato. So like it's what I'm saying is like it's great for cheese, but it's used for so much more than cheese. Like it's awesome for tomato or like lemon lime wedges, stuff like that. That's the cheese knife. Actually, Mr. Jones, like most people's favorite part of their set is actually not a knife. It's actually our shears. Our shears are sweet. They come apart for easy cleaning, which is like one of my things, Mr. Jones. I do like grass-fed, grass-fed organic steaks from Wegmans, which if you're from Philadelphia, they're everywhere. And everyone gets that same steak that I get. Mr. Jones, like one of the things that I would hate is like I'd open up a steak and I'm like trying to like not quite cut in all the way to get blood on the steak, on the shears, because I'm like, one use of shears does not mean I should be washing my shears. That's like ridiculous. With the super shears, I just love to come apart like that and just rinse them. So like that's what I use them for probably the most. But like paper plastic to like fat off chicken and stuff like that. But tell me, do you enjoy a nice bottle of wine every now and then, Mrs. Jones? And she'll say yes. Or if she says no, even more relevant to my question, and you'll know when you're entertaining, it can be a tricky scenario. You don't have that bottle opener, that corkscrew to get that wine open. But if you're the proud owner of the Cutco shears and the wealthy owner of the penny, then that is never an issue for you, of course, as you just make your own bottle openers from home with your Cutco shears. And this is not defacing government property, by the way, Mrs. Jones. It actually costs 2 cents to make a penny. You're actually helping the economy with every penny you remove from circulation. I don't even have to pay taxes on this job. They're just like, Tyler, keep doing it up on those pennies. You're good to go. No, I'm just kidding. I don't pay taxes. But you just plop it in, plop it out, short cork, and the wine would be served. And then they're like, that's great. I'm like, so yeah, they handle poultry pretty well. But they're just really awesome. And then my most personally used part of the set, Mrs. Jones, are our table knives. Now, we don't call these steak knives because they're meant for like waffles to chicken to steak for like everything. And the only reason why you wouldn't give, we make like regular steak knives, and like actually we haven't had our steak knives in a while, so I've been selling the trimmers to me like the same thing, whatever. But it makes if I make the tip point by showing the trimmer. We sell like trim, like I always have sold trimmers as regular steak knives. The only reason why you wouldn't want to give something like this to maybe your kids, it's not like the sharpest of the knife, it's like the tip that's the concern. Or you just point to like the steak knife they brought out, usually it's a sharp tip. The cool thing with table knives, we have these round tips, they're the safest things ever. We do also make like regular steak knives. Like a lot of time when I go over to someone's house, Mrs. Jones, like they'll have in their head like, oh, I'll get steak knives. And if I showed them the table knife and they're already like had their heart set on getting steak knives, sometimes they're like, oh, that wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to look like. So we do make like our regular steak knives. And then also like one of my personal just favorite things that we make, like my most used thing that we make are the table knives. Like I have this whole block in my kitchen. I just end up using like table knives for everything. It's just like so easy to reach for and grab. But my personal favorite thing that we make are our deluxe steak knives. Which if you go to Capitol Grill or if you go to Ruth's Chris or anything like that, like they're definitely not going to give you a table knife. They're probably not even going to give you a steak knife. They're going to give you something like our deluxe steak knife, which is our hunting knife, which is like $130 a pop. We also sell these as hunting knives, but they're also, what I sell them all day is our deluxe steak knives. It's literally the exact same size if you go to a really nice steakhouse that they'll give you there. There's some of the stuff that I sell the most of because most of the people I see already have a set of Cutco knives in the first place. And for what it's worth, side note, when my first year out of college, I sold almost $50,000 in hunting knives to not one person who was killing an animal. So you can definitely, a lot of people aren't trying to buy flat-iron cookware, but they're not necessarily just not trying to spend $1,000. So it's just another option of something people can spend. Like you get 12 of them, it's $1,500, and I sell it all day. But the table knives still, I go back to table knives, are my most used thing that I use that Cutco makes. But again, Mrs. Jones, just to keep this simple. And if they have kids or if they're like a younger mom, I always use a spatula sprayer. But Mrs. Jones, just keep this simple. This is our medium set. It's just the old signature set insert that I'm using if someone can't see it. This is the basic set. So I cover up the end and I'm saying, and this is how you make a homemaker seem small. This is the basic set. So a basic set is a chef knife, a carving set, a bread knife, and the small knives. Swipe the whole page, it's smaller. So the chef knife, the carving set, the bread knife, and the smallers. The medium set is the basic set, except it also comes with a hearty slicer, a petit santoku, a cheese knife, and the shears. The only things I just showed you. And then the complete set is the medium set, except it also comes with just a few of our extra customer preferred tools. Like it comes with like a larger paring knife, which like people love. It's definitely an everyday knife. It comes with our boning knife, which is just like our best knife for chicken. It's also like really good if you do like ever like brisket or London broiled or anything you want to slice thin. It comes with a salmon knife for fish, and it comes with a cleaver, which is like, you know, you're not going to use every day, but you'd be happy to have it when you do. Again, price point wise, the basic set Sean is about $4,000. The list off's about $3,000. From Cutco, our complete set, which has more knives in it than those basic sets, and it's guaranteed forever, is actually cheaper than those sets by a lot. Our complete set is $23.49. Medium set is $16.99, and the basic set is $11.39. And everything we do is put on a 5-pay. It just means you put down 1/5 just as a deposit on whatever set it is, or whatever, just whatever it is. So for math, Mrs. Jones, like if it was 1,000 even, like today it's $200, and 4 times over the next 4 months, you just see $200. There's no interest. You don't have to like authorize future payments. It's all just done automatically. But basically, those are our 3 sets. And most people would expect me to close there, but I do not close. So I said, here's our 3 sets. After that, Mrs. Jones, like second to last, you just get into our flatware. Again, Mrs. Jones, like real quick, 1810 stainless steel. It's the highest quality flatware, but it's really sleek. It's not like big bulky flatware. It's pretty cool that the table, the knife portion of the setting is the same exact thing we cut that leather with, the same thing as the table knife. And it's pretty cool to have flatware that actually cuts well. But again, it's, you know, when it first came out, it was $139.99 per setting. And 1810 in stores you can find for around $200 a setting. But now we basically do a deal with service for $12, which would be the standard flatware order, where it's a little bit less than $100 per setting. Now guys, it's $12.49. I sell flatware at $11.99. So I'll always bonus like a paring knife or something. I just love quoting $11.99, a little bit less than $100 a setting. That's what I do. It probably would make 0 impact on my sales if I said it's like $105 a setting. It wouldn't matter. Do whatever you want to do. But here's flatware, explain pricing, don't close. Lastly, Mrs. Jones, you just get into the cookware. So again, you know, you just don't have to use a whole kitchen if you're just doing something small. You know, it's, again, Mrs. Jones, by the way, before I even get into this, you don't use non-stick cookware, do you? And then she'll be like, oh, I got like 2 fry pans that I use. And I'll be like, oh my gosh, like if there's one thing I want to hear from you, Mrs. Jones, like get rid of your non-stick cookware, like throw it out. Did you see the CNN thing, or the 60 Minutes thing on non-stick cookware a couple years ago? All right, cool. Well, yeah, it's pretty bad. Like people love it because it's so easy to clean. Like you cook eggs, it's like you barely even need to rinse it off. Like it's already clean. But you know how it like starts to wear out after a while, like and you start to see it like kind of flake or like it just starts to wear out. The chemicals that keep it non-stick are called PFOAs. They're super toxic. They cook right into your food. Literally, like if you have birds near your kitchen, like birds will die if you cook with non-stick cookware. Their lungs can't handle like the chemicals. And birds will absolutely just die if you have them near your kitchen, you cook with non-stick cookware. 10 years ago, you walk into Williams-Sonoma, there'd be like kaboom, like signs everywhere saying like, you know, non-stick cookware, like it's amazing. Nowadays, you walk into Williams-Sonoma, like not many people sell or have is heavy on non-stick cookware. There is a couple pieces of non-stick cookware that's legit and it's not bad for you and it's truly non-stick. If you see like the green scan pans out of Mrs. Jones, they just suck at cooking food. Like they just don't like, it's just like they're just not good at distributing heat. Like it's definitely non-stick, but it's just not good cookware. But again, price point wise, Mr. Jones, same size set, and I cover up the aspiring chef set because it's just like it's 4 pieces. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. I cover it up with the price count for all 5 that's printed. Just went to williamsonoma.com and just sorted cookware sets by price highest. You know, again, full standard set of all cuts $5,400 on sales $39.99. Then I'll just put that quote up against, you know, obviously our medium set, which would be our accomplished chef set. We also do make a smaller set, which would be like our dedicated chef cookware set, which is it's just 2 fry pans, 2 saucepans, a skillet, and a Dutch oven. This would be more of like if you're supplementing kind of the cookware you already have, or if you're just like kind of trying it out. Whereas our standard set would be like, all right, I'm doing Cutco cookware, and then like our complete set, which is $36.99. Is the standard set. It also comes with the add-ons, like which are much bigger pieces. Like pictures do them no justice, but like the wok is huge. The stock pot is great. Like if you're ever doing like pasta or like lobsters or like anything that like requires like a lot of space. Griddles are great for breakfast stuff. And again, I cook like my steak like 1 minute on each side on a griddle on a stovetop and then finish for 7 minutes in the oven. And it's just fire. Like it's the best steak. Like it comes out great. Those are the 3 sets of the cookware, don't close. And this is gonna say, just so you know, like, if you are combining cutlery and or flatware and or cookware, it gets bundled as what's called a package, just gets discounted again by a little bit, and it comes with a lot of our kitchen tools and this type of stuff and gadgets, like, for free. But just so I guess just starting with the knives, obviously implying that we will be ending elsewhere, makes that transition pretty easy. So starting with the knives, which set do you think you get the most value out of? And that's where my closing question is going to be on the knife sets. And don't get me wrong, knives are still always going to be my bread and butter, and everyone's bread and butter. But again, my attitude is once the demo starts, the knives were sold. Whether before the demo started, second day, 7th appointment, knives were sold. They were, if I completely ruined the demo, I would still sell knives to the 85% of people who I sell to just whenever I do an appointment. 15% of people, whatever, weren't going to buy, but like everyone was going to always buy the knives, but the cookware and flatware were maybe, so I start with them. And I start with them, so it makes my transition at the end really clean and easy. And it, like, because I used to just close on the knives and then try and like start cookware, and they'd be like, it was just a terrible transition. But yeah, so starting with the knives, which set would you get the most value out of? I'll either sell a set, usually the signature set, or I'll sell pieces, or I'll sell nothing. Great, awesome. What did you think about the flatware? Did you love it? How much service would you need? I'll either sell a chest of flatware, or I'll sell nothing. Cookware, what did you think? Did you love it? Which set would you get the most value out of? And then I'll either sell a set, pieces, or nothing. Awesome, great. I might make more mention about, like, somewhere in there I would have mentioned which type of steak knives that they're going to do. But again, I'm not really going to get into gadgets and stuff like that. I'll just give them a couple for free. But you know, cookware was set, okay, great, done. And then demo's over. Sweet, you like presentation? I did all right. Okay, cool. There's only one more important part to the presentation. If you can really help me out, like I was telling you, I got paid every time I should. So I really should. I people I know. The person I recommended you. So I need you to just one thing up. It's just right. I made 300 or 400 people. I was getting like 500, 600 people. I was getting like that people. When I say like, a whole bunch of people who recommend a bunch of friends or buy a bunch of stuff. But here's the way we do it. Whatever. And I'll finish it off with recs, just like that. Like, and if you don't know your recs like that, like that's like, you know, that's like for me, like I hear one like word, like I haven't even like been thinking this whole presentation I've done. Like I hear like a word that's in my presentation, I'm like, let me think about like the Wizards-Pacers game that I'm thinking about right now while I just naturally speak my demo because I don't even have to think about it. Like those words just come out like when I start to say them, just like it should for your recommendation, Rich. But that's pretty much it, you know, and after this stuff in my demo, like, there's garden stuff. I don't really sell, like, again, when you're selling stuff that costs $1,000, your average order, as your average order goes up, your sales of peripheral items will go down. Again, like, I sell, like, very few, like, peripheral items now, but, like, it doesn't really affect my average order. Like, it's, you know, I'll pretty much just tell people, like, if they're like, yeah, that ice cream's too sick, I'm like, yo, it's like $38, it's an extra, like, $7 on your deposit, or $8, I'm just gonna throw it on, cool. And sweet, like, you know, you're gonna say no? Like, I'm just gonna throw it on there. But only have stuff in your blue book that you wanna sell. Like, I don't have, like, for me, that's it. Like, I don't have galley sets or anything smaller than a homemaker. I don't have gift sets, because if you flip to the gift set, then guess who just sold gift sets? You just sold gift sets. So I just want to have only the things that I want to sell in here. But that's pretty much it. So I guess we do Q&A.
So when you said, well, I'll talk a little bit loud so everybody can hear me. He said that he doesn't want to sell sets smaller than a homemaker, right? So what do you do when they're like, even the basic set that may be in too many pieces? What do you tell them?
Great question. So for me, my drop down, essentially, it just comes back probably my underlying belief that like, if $1,000 is too much for you for a set of knives, probably you shouldn't be spending $100 on a block that's going to come in like the smaller sets. Like you should probably, if $1,000 is too much, like you should probably just do a 4-piece special. So like, I pretty much a second, if they're like, yo, I'm just not trying to get a set of knives, it depends. Like I might, if they have some, I might go into like upgrading. You know, I might like, I'll kind of tailor it to the situation, but I'll usually just drop down and say like, all right, what was it that you wouldn't be using? Like what were the things that you would use the most? And I'll just like kind of find out. They're like, oh, I want to spend like 400, and I'll be like, all right, cool, I'm going to close at like 600 and try to raise it like a little bit. Like, that's pretty much my strategy. I don't know, that's been my strategy since the beginning. If you're telling me you want to spend this much, I'm going to try to raise it a little bit, and then that's what I'm going to try and sell you. So, Gilly.
First of all, that was a sexy demo. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing that with everybody. Could you clarify just a little bit on your clothes? I got everything up until you asked, do you like it? But the actual point in which you present the price and how you present that with the sample deposit or the deposit or however you phrase it.
Yeah.
Like the actual number, and then if you do have a closing question or however you.
Yeah, so the closing question comes after, I go over price, like pretty much the walkthrough is like I'm going over price, I'm like going over pricing, and then walking back through and closing. So like when I get down to like I've explained the different sets with the knives, I say, so again, the basic set of Sean's about $4,000, Wistall's about $3,000, and Cutco, our complete set, which has more knives in it than those basic sets and is guaranteed forever, it's actually cheaper than those sets by a lot. Our complete set's $23.49, medium set's $16.99, basic set is $11.39, and everything we do is put on what's called a 5-pay, which just means you put down 1/5 just as a deposit on whatever kind of card you want to use. And there's no interest. You don't have to like authorize future payments. For math, if it's $1,000, today it's $200, and then 4 times in the next 4 months you see $200. Sometimes I will close here. Like sometimes I know that someone's not in on flatware and cookware. Like sometimes we'll just tell you right in the beginning I'm not on flatware. And whenever someone tells me something like that, like I'm just definitely not going to get pots and pans. I'll always like acknowledge that and roll with it and do whatever I can to make that my benefit. So like what I'd say, if someone's like, I'm just not going to get cookware, I'll be like, okay, cool, Mr. I said, by the way, if I'm ever showing you something, and you're like, there's just not a chance in hell I'm going to buy that, just tell me, and like we'll skip that part. Implying naturally that if you don't tell me to skip it, there's a chance in hell that you will buy it. So I kind of flip that one a little bit. But I sometimes will close right there and say, here's what they cost. Which set do you think you get the most value out of? That's always my closing question. Again, like people field trip me, they're confused with the close. They're like, you didn't really close. Like I didn't see him close. Like because like I really do believe like I am the softest closer in the world. Like I really just like try to get on their side of the table and empower them to feel confident in making their own like large order, rather than like again, this is if for people who were in my last talk, we talked about this a little bit with me and Matt Graves. But if you weren't there for that, it's just like the first thing if you're a newer FSM or a newer rep that you can do to like double your average order is just options closing. Even if you don't want to do that whole closeout the way I did, which probably you shouldn't do it that way until you've got comfortable with just regular options closing. Like just throw 3 options out there. It's so much less pushy, like as a sales rep, and the customer isn't backed into a corner where they can only say yes or no. Like they start to drive the bus. Options closing is like the best thing.
So you say if you want to get it with the cookware, would you get it with?
So and then I'm pretty vague with pricing. So like say someone buys some signature is $16.99. The flatware chest I sell is $11.99.
Right.
Obviously those 2 numbers added together is about $3,000, a little bit under. I would just say, you're about like 3,000. It'd be like about 3. If you want to do flatware, you're about like 3K. Your deposit's about $600. Like I'm not sitting there and writing out everything like clearly and taxing and everything. Like I'm much more so. It's about this. Does that sound good?
You're not giving me essentially a discount so you can know the numbers right off the top of your head.
Yeah, I know the number. I know what it's going to cost, and I'm going to close on a certain price. And I say, I'm just more vague with it. I'm just saying, it's about $3,000. Do you want to do that? And and they'll be like, they're not like, is it 30, 28? Is it like, usually that doesn't come up, but like with some people who are bankers who like really do want to know the numbers, then I'll definitely get down to the cent and everything. But like, I just think it takes up a lot of time and it distracts the customer and makes them just think about the price when you're like just aggressive about letting them know the exact price of every little single thing,
So you don't write down the price?
I don't. I'm not like writing down price. I mean, sometimes maybe I will, but no, not as general practice. I'm not.
So now that we know, how to do the demo and everything, how do you get so many recs to keep on going?
So that's the most important part is leads. That's by far the most important part. If you probably didn't even notice it because one of the things when you've got your stuff down. Like no matter, I can take any tangent in my demo and I can like bring it back to where you were and keep going because like I'm not worried at all about what I'm going to say. Whereas which it took 150 grand in sales for that to happen, where I just wasn't ever stressing about like what I'm going to say under a certain scenario. Like I always just know I'm going to know the right answer to say, and any scenario that presents itself, I will know what to say. So I'm not necessarily thinking about. What was your question again? I'm about to tie this back in. I swear.
About the leads, just getting
The hell was I going with
ton
this?
of recs.
So you didn't even notice. I just did my random, my ultimate seed approach, like in the middle of my demo. It probably seemed natural to you. I just forgot to do it in the beginning, where I said, hey, my number one goal is that you like me, and you have fun with the presentation, so at the end you feel comfortable recommending me to a few of your friends. Like that whole part, I normally do that in the beginning, but I just did it in the middle because it doesn't matter where I do it. I just know I need to say it, and I'm not stressing out because I know I can get back to right where I was, and probably no one would even notice it. But how do you get those leads? It's about making sure you have that one firm seed in the beginning of your demo. Like, I don't need to do a bunch of like random seeds, but I have one firm, like, hey, my number one goal is that you like me and you have fun. So at the end, you feel comfortable recommending me to a few of your friends. Like, that's like a you can't mistake what I'm asking for type of a thing. And usually, when you let people know up front, they like, at this point in the demo, there's like, everything's like all good, there's nodding to everything. So they're like, okay, cool. And like, once they get back to the end, like, they like mentally like trace the fact that they work on it, like, oh, yeah, cool. And like, they will get you leads. And like, sometimes I forget to do that seed, just like I forgot to do it at the beginning of this presentation. And those are the demos where I don't get recs. I get 0 recs all day long. You know, but I legitimately average probably 12 or 13 referrals. You know, like that's probably like a legitimate average of mine, counting all the zeros. Most people think they average 10. When I was at 500K career sales, I was averaging like 7, and like I was doing real well. So like everyone who says they average 10, I was always just like, man, what are you doing? Because I kind of thinking you're not averaging 10. You probably get 0 a lot. Like I get 0 all day, but I also get like 40 a lot. You know, with referrals, it's that drop dead confidence, and it's just like painting the vision of like what you're doing and why you do what you do that makes them buy into you. And then it just comes down to getting the right referrals. You know, like maybe one other thing, a quick note before we move on to the next question is that like I think a lot of reps think that the way to get more recs is to like start, oh, I'm going to ask for 10 to 20. Oh, now I'm just going to ask for 20 to 30, and I'm naturally going to get so much more, and then I'm going to ask for 30 to 40 when I ask for recs. And who knows where I'm going to stop and what number I will continue to elevate what I request Mrs. Jones for. Like, I'm constantly praying, I just want a couple, just a few. Like, when I'm talking about recs and what my goal with recs. Like, I think people scare the shit out of Mrs. Jones when they say, I just want 20 or 30 leads, and they're saying that, not with a sarcastic laugh afterwards. So, yeah, that's what I want. Like, I think that scares Mrs. Jones. That's what I want, too, but I just want to get that pen writing, and then I'm going to keep that pen writing. You know, the second that I see one name and number start to go down, I'm saying, hey, who do you know? You know, first of all, I know the recs that I want to have, which is the first step. So as I say, hey, who do you know who has kids, also has kids at Episcopal, like you and Cindy do? You know, are there any other moms she forgot to introduce me to? Do you know anyone who has kids over at Haverford? Who do you know who golfs at like Marion Cricket Club? Who do you know who golfs at Aronimink? Hey, what's the road like 2 streets down from here on the left? Is it like it's Bryn Titten Drive? Like I've done been trying to get a demo on Bryn Titten Drive for like ever. Like if you know anybody on Bryn Titten. You know, who do you know that like who's the best golfer your husband knows? Who's the best tennis player you know? You know, who do you know who would get a set for like a beach house? Who do you know is just like the best networker out of anybody you know? Like who just knows completely different groups of people? You know, who threw the pool parties at school? Like they're usually a really, really good networker. You know, you just start to ask like the right questions, and like you don't say who do you know that's nice, or who do you know that likes to cook, because they're like in their head like it's not even a thought jogger. Like thought isn't jog. They're just like, oh, I don't know, everybody likes to cook, everybody's nice. When I say do you know anyone on Bryn Titten? Like whether or not they do, they have to visualize themselves like going down Bryn Titten, and like a thought is actually jogged, which is like the whole point of the thought jogger in the first place. So it's like get specific with what you're asking for. You know, hey, who do you know that lives in Gladwin, or do you know anyone down towards Newtown Square? Do you know anybody like in the Horse area, like farm country out towards like Malvern or Willistown? You know, like be able to like say that stuff and request the right people. And then, like for me, that was the biggest change I ever made in my career. It was one day I got a demo in this place called Gladwin, which I guarantee you everybody in here has a Gladwin that's by them. My area, there's definitely a decent amount of money in it, but like it's not even close to how much money there are in the suburbs of New York or Miami or Houston or Los Angeles. Like it's definitely a lot of money, but it's like not even in the same ballpark as some of those other suburbs. But there's certainly enough, and I'm very just specific about targeting who I want to see, and I'll ask for those questions. And a quick follow-up.
Just a little comment I want to say about it is I think you're able to get so many leads because the way you do your demo, I feel like I get to the end of a demo and they're so tired out because we like went through everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like I spend a lot of time with them and usually like I'll just sell a set or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like at that point though, after you spend 2.5 hours with them, hanging out, chatting, having fun.
Yeah, I used to do a 2.5-hour demo when I was new. I couldn't figure it out, and then you know one day I realized that like you know me talking about misuse and abuse and the guarantee just isn't adding CPO or RECs to my appointments.
Absolutely.
And it's not even like a real thing. Like they're just going to replace it for free. So like that was the first thing I noticed that I could drop. And then after a while, I was like, you know, like I do a sick disadvantages page. I haven't done disadvantages in years, but like in my division, it's like in the trainings for all of our offices, it's me doing the disadvantages page. But I quickly realized like this page just doesn't matter for me. Like this page I could cut completely, and my average order is unaffected. You know, so like my first step I did was like I can make this page a lot quicker. You know, so like I was like, hey, wooden handles are gross, plastic handles are junk, Carbon steel is sharp but gross. Stainless steel is not gross but not sharp. Serrated edge cuts well but it tears. A straight edge doesn't cut well but it doesn't tear. So, cutting test. Like that became my page. It was like, I used to do this whole thing about the magnets in the handles, which I'm sure people do with the wood. It's just like unnecessary. At some point, you want to say, how can I make my demo under 30 minutes? Because I guarantee you, if you could do a whole demo and hit on, like I hit on all major product types that they could buy $1,000 of, and it's less than 30, it's like seriously, like it's about a half hour on the dot. And during push periods, you can crank through demos when you have a quicker presentation. And certainly, like, my strategy changes. Like, sometimes I'll know someone's not about to drop anything over $1,000. I'll still, like, present just the same way and do it really quick, and then just get down selling them their damn 4-piece special and get out of there. You know, like, I'm gonna be quick with it. But, like, you just don't need to make it 2.5 hours. Like, first of all, it's just disrespectful for their time. You didn't tell them it was gonna be 2.5 hours. You know, like, I felt like, crap when I was taking so much of people's time doing this. I mean, like, of course they're gonna be polite, but, like, they're like, damn, dude, like, it's been 2 hours, man. Like, I got kids to feed. Like, I gotta get going. So just make it quick. Respect their time, respect your time, and just automatically the dollars per hour that you're worth goes up if you can cut the demo time in half.
So do you not go over the guarantee at all? Because I feel like that's a major sell for some of my customers.
Yeah, I'd absolutely go over the guarantee.
Okay, did you do that?
So yeah, that part was after I do the cutting test, where I say, hey, if this is a $5,000 set of knives, what type of guarantee would you expect that to come with? And then, waterproof iPhone, how an iPhone isn't guaranteed forever. The best thing about Cutco is everything's guaranteed forever. It's just a one and done kind of a deal. All presentation in 10 seconds. The average person replaces their knives 4 times in their life, cookware 3 times, flatware twice, and you buy stupid kitchen gadgets every month. Just be done with getting kitchen stuff over and over. So yeah, I crushed the guarantee.
So you don't really divide it up by the 4, you
nah,
just
it's
basically
totally,
say it's guaranteed
it's
forever.
one guarantee. Everything's just guaranteed forever. It's not even 4 that you need to worry about. Like, I'll mention in there, like, also at some point in my presentation, like, I'll mention, like, hey, like, even if I'm talking about Shun, I'll be like, this Shun is like a great knife. It could be even equal or better than Cutco if you like high maintenance knives. Like, Shun is such a good knife, but you'll have to resharpen it after almost every time you use it. Can't put them in the dishwasher. They are really thin and sharp, and they do chip, and they're not guaranteed when that happens. Cutco is better. I mean, we use harder steel. Like, it cuts better, but it's also guaranteed forever, and it's super low maintenance. Everything's dishwasher safe. Even with the best knives, you have to resharpen them after every few times you use them. Cutco stays sharp by itself for like 3 to 5 years, and then Cutco resharpens it for you for free whenever you want. It's just super low maintenance. So like, I'll just make that, but you don't need to tell them we have this type and this type. It's all just one guarantee.
It's a no-brainer. Just present it like, yeah, it's a no-brainer.
So, someone in normal sales is needing like $15,000, they actually implement like all the changes.
Definitely not. Just do something. I mean, take like a few. I think it could be options closing if you're not doing that. I'd say that's the first thing. And again, with my whole presentation, like, there's a few things I need to say. Like, I need to say that ultimate seat that I said in the middle, and I'll like make sure there's like 3 things I say every time. That, the cable analogy, which by the way I got at going to a conference, listening to a rep who has had 100K in career sales who made that up, and I learned that that conference paid itself 30 times over for me, because that's like the #1 thing I recommend for increasing your average order is the cable analogy. So it's just a few things that I just have to say, but no, just take the things you like, and again, don't be the first me, be the first you. Like when I was a newer rep, I was looking up to there's some beasts in the Northeast region, like Mike Arrieta and RJ Agrawal and Buva Bennett. And I was always trying to look up so much and be like them, because I could see them walk around conferences selling 50K for a push period, 100K for summer, and like I just wanted exactly what they had. But I was trying to be them, and like I can't do, like, if anyone knows Buva Bennett, she's like the most intense person, like literally, like she has a 2-hour-long demo that's 1 hour and 59 minutes about her past success. Like, it's the most intense demo like you've ever seen in your life, but like she crushes it, and like I couldn't do her demo. And then you're like my boy Rob Brandt, who worked for Cutco, he walks into his demos in flip flops and a bathing suit because he lives by the beach. I couldn't do that, So like, just be the first you. Take a couple things that you like. My whole demo is just basically like the one little things that I like from other people's demos that I made into mine. Like there's some things that are original, but it's mostly just like a little blend.
So you're talking about like the double grade steak knife. Is that the actual like hunting knife that comes in the sheath? Is that the one?
Yeah, well, you can sell them without. I sell them without the sheath.
Okay,
it's
yeah.
It's like $25 cheaper. They come with regular white sheath, like any piece of Cutco. And yeah, it's just an option. And like again, a lot of, like you just got, I mean, you got to let them know that it's our hunting knife, but I sell them as deluxe steak knives. People love them. You know, again, it's the exact same size as what a steak knife and Capital Grill at Ritz Chris, and like, you just feel like the man, obviously, when you're eating steak on these things, Mrs. Jones. Like, you know, I'd be in college and I'd spend $11 every night at like Wings to Go, and then I found out that I could like go to the grocery store and get like a fillet for like $7. And so I'd be like just in college, just absolutely killing it, eating fillet with a deluxe steak knife. I was just killing it all the time. And if you have people, and you're like actually having people over to entertain, like you set the table with these, like if you're grilling steaks in the summer, like these are just table candy. Like people will be talking about like people literally just be talking about the steak knife they just ate after they leave your dinner. You know, they'll be talking about the steak knife more than the steak. You know, like they're just, you know, their husbands love them. You feel like the man when you're eating with them. Cut the exact same way as the table knife, though. It's strictly, you know, it's strictly an aesthetic, and you know, it's an expensive aesthetic. You know, but they're my personal favorite thing that we make. You know, I love nothing more than when mine are not dirty and I can reach for them for, you know, when I do steak.
Can you go over like some service call tips and like how you go about it?
I'm probably not the best person to go over service calls with. I do not do service calls. I do strictly demos. So I don't. I've done a couple of my past customers, but I literally had somebody, Joseph Rodriguez, you guys should all, if you want him to set up your service calls for you, he's the man at that. He has a company call center that does it for you. I had 24 set up for me when I came back from a vacation. I started off 0 for 13, and I was just like, I'm just not feeling this. But then on the 14th, I had 7K orders, so I made it all worth it. I've done a couple of the service calls, but I really like don't know the damn thing. I am really sitting there sharpening the knife. I'm like, I'm not ruining your knife right now.
What was that company?
Was that?
What was that company that set it up for you? Because I heard about that earlier.
Oh, just Joseph Rodriguez. I don't know, it's called like Blueprint Scheduling. Just basically pay for the call center to call your best customers.
Is that your biggest order then?
Not my biggest order now. I've had, my biggest order was to ex-Phillies World Series champion pitcher Larry Christensen in an office building, bought like 11 grand for me. I've had a ton of orders at about 7 or 8 grand. So. I get the most of my, big order, I love 3K orders. It's like my bread and butter, selling like a knife set and one other major thing that costs $1,000 type of product.
Option closing? Could you give an example of someone?
Well, yeah, that's just what options closing you can do with anything. It's just instead of saying, here's our accomplished chef cookware set, it costs $2,400, do you want it? It's, here's our accomplished chef set, here's our that and the add-ons, and here's the dedicated, they cost X, Y, and Z. Which one would you get the most value out of? Or it's flatware, we make it in stainless, or we make it in white or black traditional. Which of the three would you get the most value out of? Here's our knife sets, here's the three, here's what they cost, X, Y, and Z, which one would you get the most value out of? It's just about giving them 3 options and then letting them respond versus just closing and having them want to say yes or no. Because when you do options close, like they'll also present the real objection. When you say, which one of these would you get the most value out of, they'll be like I just need to talk to my husband before I do this, or they'll give you the real objection when your options close too, so you can just actually help them.
This is just like an assumption, but do you not do virtuals?
I don't do them. I've done a couple random phone things with people, but not really. But I don't discourage them. I know people have a lot of success with them.
It's a lot better when it's personal though.
Yeah, I would definitely. Certainly if it's an option to see them in person or on the phone, I'd rather see them in person. Again, I haven't done virtuals, but I'd probably try and gear it just again towards things that cost more money. I don't know the structure of the virtual demo, but I imagine that I would just options close as well, and I would show them the sets, and I imagine it would be very similar. But there's probably a lot of people who are much better to ask that question than me. We have 2 more questions, and we have your notes. Biggest